When you look at mutations, vaccinations, do you worry that we're actually, making good progress, certainly in the US and the UK, but we'll have more mutations for which these vaccines won't work?
Well, that is a big question. We don't know. It's a reason why people need to be still careful. We need to get as many vaccinations as we can out there with the hope that we can win the race against the mutations. I've talked to scientists who are confident that the vaccines will provide a fair amount of protection. There are others who are very nervous about it. I think we don't know, but we know what to do, which is more important. We know that we have to be careful out there. We have to keep driving the cases down, and we have to be efficient and effective at getting those vaccines out there.
Dr. Sharfstein, how much of a game changer is Johnson & Johnson? Is there a worry, like we're seeing in Europe, that people will actually refuse that shot because they think it's less efficient than the others?
Well, I think it's not necessarily a game changer, but it's definitely help. It's reinforcements. It really is a vaccine that has a lot of benefit for people. There are going to be people who just want the one shot and be done with it. It's very high levels of protection against serious illness and death. And so I think that people will be excited to get it if they can. I don't know exactly how people will perceive it, but I think given the strong numbers and the very thorough studies that were done, I think that we'll see a fair amount of interest.
We have that problem here with AstraZeneca. As you guys probably know, Germany has yet to recommend it for people over 65. Even the chancellor here, Angela Merkel, said she wouldn't take it because she's too old. That aside, Joshua, because the vaccines are going at really a breakneck pace in the U.S. and the U.K., when do you expect herd immunity to be reached?
Sure. Let me just say, for AstraZeneca, I'm not really sure exactly what's going on with that vaccine. I think, it has not been authorized in the United States yet. We haven't seen the FDA's full review of the data. I think the FDA has done a good job really putting out its analysis and driving confidence through that analysis in the clinical system and with the public, which is why I'm a little bit more optimistic about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. In terms of herd immunity, that's another question nobody really knows for sure. We're going to have to see, but we know what we can do to get there as fast as possible. And we'll get there faster if people are able to take precautions and we can get vaccines out there. I think most people are estimating that we could see just a huge amount of benefit by the end of the spring into the summer. What I would say, though, is that herd immunity isn't like a magical state where you wake up and there's music playing outside. It probably will be the case that there'll be areas of the country that don't have as much immunity, don't have as much vaccination, could be susceptible to outbreaks. During periods of time, we could see surges in the virus, particularly if there are variants that can still pass among people who are vaccinated. So it's going to be something that we're going to be constantly having to monitor.
But aren't we moving to a stage where, for example, not nearly as many people, only a fractional amount of people die from this thing, and it becomes something more like an influenza that morphs into, you don't want to get it, but it's not likely to kill you?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's most likely where we're headed, and the vaccines have really made that possible. And we can get to that place faster by taking care now. People who are vaccinated, I think, can start to open up a little bit, but I think we can't have the premature celebration. I think that's not a good idea at this point. We need to keep driving the coronavirus down, put it into a corner, make it much harder for it to keep mutating, and that will put us in the best position for that scenario where it's a bother, a potentially small risk, but nothing like we've seen.
Well, you talk of driving the coronavirus down. Are we further enough into the vaccination program that we can now draw a line between the vaccine and the impact it is having on case numbers, on hospitalizations? Because the hospitalization rate has fallen something like 72% over the last month.
Well, the strongest data in the United States is looking at hospitalizations among people in nursing homes. As the vaccinations were targeted for people in nursing homes, the number and the share of hospitalizations from people in nursing homes has dropped like a stone. That's a great great news. And we also see corroborating evidence from other countries like Israel, which have seen a huge decline, 95% decline in hospitalizations, et cetera, among people who have been vaccinated. So the evidence is strong. These clinical studies were done well, and we're seeing that the results are translating into reality. So there's every reason for people to get a vaccine when it becomes available, whether it's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine or the Pfizer Moderna vaccine in the United States. There's every reason for people to have a good measure of optimism, and there's every reason for people still to respect a virus that has killed 500,000 people in the United States and millions around the world, and to take it seriously until we're really in the clear.
Dr. Sharfstein, does the U.S. really have to work on genome sequencing? So this is basically tracking any kind of mutation in the virus. And is that the only way to really try and understand what this morphs into?
It's very important. Genome sequencing is very important. I think there are $200 million or something coming down the line in the United States for genome sequencing. I think it's going to help, particularly when these questions come up, like somebody who's had the vaccine gets sick, maybe they're not so sick. Are they more likely to get it with a certain variant? And if so, maybe that's the variant that goes into the next version of the shot. So it's going to be very important for our response. We've been able to be successful against this virus by bringing the best science to bear and really understanding exactly how the virus is changing in response to the different measures we're putting into place, medicines, vaccines, is part of bringing science to this battle.